Hi everybody, welcome to Flosstube number 44, and I want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day. I hope you've had a chance today to visit with your fathers and other loved ones that are daddies, whether it's daddies to human kids or daddies to fur babies. And those of you that have fathers in heaven, I hope you have happy memories of them today as well. My dad, I know, has been gone about 30 something years, and I still think of him every day and had great memories of all the fun that we had. I know we probably drove my mother nuts because I was a bit of a tomboy growing up. I loved to ride horses. I would go with him if he went hunting and just, you know, out in the woods or in the pasture. I showed cattle when I was young, all the way through part of my college years. And my poor mother, I know she was scared to death when I would go and do some of these things. It wasn't the frilly little girl things that she thought I would be doing. So bless her heart, she was probably a nervous wreck as my dad and I got into things. But especially on a day like today, it's fun to think back on some of those memories. So I hope all of you have had a chance to do some of that today as well. I know both of our boys are in. My youngest son, of course, lives here in Conway, and my oldest son and his wife live in Virginia, but they're home. My daughter-in-law had to fly back to Virginia this last weekend, and so we miss her being here, but I'm so thankful that we were able to spend some time with her. And my oldest son stayed a little bit longer since my mom and I were gone to Bristol 3, so we could have a chance to visit when we got back. And he'll head back home to Virginia this coming week. So we're going to soak up the last few days that we have with him before he heads home. I just want to give an update. Speaking of my daughter-in-law and my oldest son, and now my youngest son, I have to tell you what's happened this week. When we were in Arizona for Bristol 3, my daughter-in-law and her sister flew out, and we spent a few days in Sedona. It was beautiful, beautiful area, had a great time. And while we were there, we visited the attic because my daughter-in-law was so sweet to ask about, you know, my stitching and what was the attic like. So we just went there one day, and she and her sister each picked out a stitch project. And so Haley picked out like 12 different Christmas ornaments on perforated paper that go on the little sleds, and she's wanting to stitch those. And then her sister just picked out a regular stitch design that had kind of like a mandala theme in it. Beautiful colors. And so we got them started stitching. My son sent me a picture of Haley sitting on our couch stitching, and he just simply said, "What did you do to my wife?" And I said, "She is a good girl. Look at her stitching over there." Then after we got home, my youngest son's girlfriend was asking about it. And so we visited my local L&S Stitcher's Garden this last Saturday, and she picked out a picture to stitch. She got the cutest little cat stitch project because she loves cats. And so we got her started. And today we all went out to eat dinner for my husband on Father's Day, and she had to show me her progress. So she's doing great. All three girls are just doing wonderful with their first projects, and I'm so proud to get them hooked a little bit with some stitching. So that's been kind of fun to see and experience, even though my sons may never let me live it down. They're like, that's what they're doing now. They're stitching. Thanks to you, Mom. So I'll have to give you updates periodically. Today, the sampler that I want to talk about is one that I think is very fitting for Father's Day or Mother's Day, just any time that we might think of our parents. And when I saw this sampler, and I know I've talked to you guys before about why do I pick certain samplers, and I've said sometimes it's the border. There's just different elements in the sampler that make me interested in that particular sampler. And there's samplers that I see that are beautiful, but I'm like, you know, I don't feel that draw that I have to have that sampler. And so this is one of those that as soon as I saw it, I just knew I had to have it. And it's not a very elaborate sampler. It's pretty basic, but I think sometimes basic is good. I like the simple, sweet verses. And so that was the first thing that appealed to me. And then I loved the colors. I like the color pink about as much as I like lavender and violet colors. So when I looked at this, those are the two things that just struck me. And so I'm going to show you the antique first. It's not in a frame. It has this beautiful little border all the way around it. It has the alphabets at the top, a simple little dividing band. Here we have the lowercase and another dividing band. And I thought this center dividing band, I'll pull it back where you can see it a little bit. When I look at it from the front, it nearly looks variegated, but it's not. When you look at the back, it's all the same color pink. It just happened to be the way that that front faded. And I thought that was so cool how just the simple natural act of fading caused this center dividing band to look a little variegated. Then the verse is very simple. Honor thy parents. And that's what we do on Mother's Day and Father's Day. We take just a little bit of time to think about our parents and let them know that we appreciate them. And then it has another dividing band and another simple little phrase that simply says, search the scriptures. And it was stitched by Sarah Ann Morris, 1862. Now I'm going to show you, and well, before I set the antique to the side, I'll kind of show you some things. This simple sampler looks like it was simply hemmed all around the edge. You can kind of see that. And then it was just nailed, probably nailed to a board to be hung up on the wall. And unfortunately, you can see where those nails have really caused some distress to the edge of this sampler. So she needed to be saved. Now we have her where she's never going to go and completely away. And I will, since I have finished reproducing this one, I will take care to conserve her and put her up somewhere where she won't deteriorate any further. Now let me show you the model. And this is one that I already released. I released it this last year. And I just absolutely love little Sarah Ann Morris. Just a sweet border, very simple, basic phrases, but oh so true. Another thing that I want to point out on this that's a little different. This is a true reproduction, but I've added some personalization to it. And I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit today. Anytime that you stitch a sampler, you can put your own little twist to it. If you're stitching a sampler that maybe reminds you of a grandmother, you could include your grandmother's name or her birth date. Instead of putting 1862, you could put your grandparents' birth date. What I did to personalize this one, I left the stitcher's name, Sarah Ann Morris. I left the date that she stitched this, 1862. And then if you notice, there's a set of initials over here, EBH, which is my father's initials, Edward Brown Hudlow, and then my mother's initials, LLT, Linda Lou Tepke. And that way, it's kind of a tribute to my parents and showing them respect and honor. And so I hope if you decide to stitch the sampler that you think about doing something like that as well. It could be your parents, but it could be someone else that just served as a parental figure to you. But this was just a fun, easy stitch. All straight cross stitches. The only thing that was over one is this little dividing band along here. Those lines were just stitched over one, but that's all. The rest of it was done in just straight cross stitch in beautiful colors. So that's the sampler. Now I want to share with you a little bit of the history behind Sarah Ann Morris. And I have that information here in the chart for you as well. Sarah, and I'm pretty certain that I found her. I can't be 100% certain, but I feel pretty sure that I did find the Sarah Ann Morris that did the sampler. And she was born in 1854 in Derbyshire, England. She was christened at Chapel on the Frith, and I probably completely butchered that name with my southern voice. Her father died in 1857, which was just 5 years before she completed the sampler. And so as I thought about that, you guys know me by now if you've watched very long. It doesn't take much to make me curious. And so I thought, oh my goodness, her father died not long before she finished the sampler. And so I kind of think, and I like to imagine, that as she stitched this piece, that might have been inspiration for her to include the verses or the little phrases that she did. He might have been on her mind. It wasn't that long ago that he passed away. And like I said earlier, my dad's been gone over 30 years, and he's on my mind quite a bit, even all these many years later. So I think little Sarah, as she was stitching, probably was thinking about her father and her mother. So hopefully, as she stitched, she was able to recall some fond memories of her parents. And just, you know, as she's stitching, I don't know about you, but I feel it's probably the same. If I'm stressed, or if I'm just reminiscing, or if I'm sitting in my chair at night stitching, watching TV, I can do a whole lot of thinking as I'm working that needle and thread. And so I bet Sarah was the same way. She probably thought about her parents as she stitched this particular sampler. She went on to marry in 1880. She had 2 daughters of her own. And in one of the census reports, her occupation was listed as an operative wadding mill worker. And I really wasn't sure what exactly that meant. And so I had to do a little more digging. You guys know I did. I had to search and see, what would an operative wadding mill worker do? And wadding is just a mass of fibers. And I felt like in my head, wadding, like you said, I'm gonna get a wad of something. It means just a clump or a bunch of something. And it just said that wadding is a mass of fibers used for stuffing or padding. And so I kind of thought that was interesting. Even in her occupation, she worked with fibers. And so I just hope if you decide to stitch the sampler that you think about how you work with fibers, and you think about your parents, and just enjoy those fond memories as you stitch. The last phrase that she had included in here, where it says search the scriptures, I wanted to find a verse that I thought might have been what she was referencing. And this was the one that I found that I really like. It just says, honor your father and your mother in order that your days be lengthened on the land that the Lord your God is giving you. Exodus 20:12. And so I don't know that that's the verse maybe she thought about, but I think it fits. I want to show you, before I announce our winner from last week and show you what I got this week, I have a picture of my mom and dad when they were youngsters down here on the bottom. And so here's my dad in some of his bib overalls. He looks like he's up to something in that picture. I think he's got a little smirk on his face, just like my little boys did when they were young, like, what can I get into next? And then this is a picture of my mom. She's sitting there, I think, looking so pretty, and she looks like she's going to be a good girl. She doesn't look like she's up to something. But I just wanted to kind of include their pictures on this chart, kind of as a tribute and a way to honor them. So anyway, sorry, I've got the sun coming in. I'm not usually videoing at this time of day, and didn't realize how much the sun comes in that top window next to me. So sorry about that. Last week I had a little prize that I was going to give away from the attic, and the winner for that is Susan Shamois. And Susan, if I have mispronounced your name, I apologize. If you will email me or simply message me or comment below, I will need your mailing address and I'll get your prize out to you this week. Now, let me show you what I'm going to give away this week. I have another little treat I brought back from the attic. It just says the attic needlework where samplers rule. And I have one of these. Jean gifted everybody that attended last summer. And I just used mine like for a little scissor tray or just a little workstation tray. It's made out of wood. It's just a nice little piece to have and easy to travel with. And I'm also going to give the winner a copy of Sarah Ann Morris, my chart. So the winner for this week will get Sarah Ann Morris and a little goodie from the attic. And so to be entered to win, just comment below. And I'd love to hear if you have personalized any of the samplers that you've stitched. And if you have, how did you personalize them? I think adding that little personal touch just makes us have more ownership with what we've stitched. And when we look at it, we can kind of smile. We know that that particular sampler was done to honor somebody that we care about. So I'll be excited to read your comments and see how you might change up a sampler to personalize it in your own way. Next week, I'll give you a little tidbit or sneak preview of what's coming next week. I'm super excited about it. I have never done the summer stitch camp with Colorado Cross Stitcher, and so this year I decided I was going to try. Well, I started out with really big ambitions about charting a sampler that had a bird in it, because the month of June you're supposed to stitch a bird, something with a bird in it, and I'm not finished charting. And I've got other things. I'm trying to get my summer release orders out, and that's taking up quite a bit of time. So I switched it up a little bit. I had another sampler that has this beautiful bird in the center of it. And so I have charted just the bird, and I purchased a wooden unfinished piece from Chantel's, and I'm going to stitch the bird and put it in my new wooden piece. And so I'll show you my progress. I'm hoping to have it finished this next week. The end of June is coming up very quickly, and I want to have my June summer cross stitch camp piece finished, so then I can move on when July gets here with the July challenge. So it's been fun. I love to see when people post their projects, and I am so impressed. There's been several pieces that are just stunning. I saw one today, and this is the dangerous part of it, because when people post their finish, you see it and you're like, I don't have that chart. I think I might need it. And so I have a list started of several charts of really cute bird type pieces that I may need to get. So that's the only dangerous part about it, but it's been a lot of fun to participate in. So I've got to get on that this week. And so next week, I'm going to I'll show you my piece for summer camp, but I'm also going to spend some time talking about samplers and how not to be afraid. You may say, well, I don't particularly like that whole sampler. Can I just do part of it? And so I want to share how you can take different elements out of a sampler and do a little twist on them, finish them in a way that you might not have thought about. And so that's something to be looking forward to next week. And I'm telling you that. So it will make me really get busy and get my project finished, because I told you I'm going to show it to you. That way I won't get too lazy this week and I'll actually finish it. So anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday and a fantastic week next week. We had storms come through last night, but this afternoon the sun has come out. It's beautiful, and I think we're going to have several more days of really good weather. So I hope that for all of you as well. So anyway, take care, get some stitching in, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.